Shalom, back again with another lesson. And before I begin this lesson, I'd like to begin by first giving all honor, glory, and praises unto Yahweh, Bahashem, Yahweh Shai, Bahashem, Racha Kodash. I give double honors to my elders and apostles and elder bishops of Great Millstone, who rule well, who I've learned this truth from. I want to say peace and salutations to you, Akim, you brothers out there laboring, pushing this word out in all truth and in sincerity, presenting your bodies as a living sacrifice, which is your reasonable service. I want to say shalom to you, Akwaf, the Israelite sisters that may be listening, and also to you Israelites that are scattered across the four corners of the earth. You may look like these other nations, but your seed line goes back to Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, which is the chosen seed line. Shalom. So this is just going to be a quick lesson on free will. I recently overheard a conversation about free will, and the person that was speaking was basically saying something along the lines of God or the Most High gave him the free will to do what he wanted. In other words, to choose to do evil, choose to do good. It's his free choice to make that decision. Now, I know this is a sentiment that a lot of Christians also believe, is that they were given the free will to choose what they wanted to do, whether it be right or whether it be wrong. Now, as a man being in this truth, learning this truth and growing in this truth, we understand that there's no such thing as free will. But one thing that we do understand for sure is that we can only do what the Most High allows us to do. It's not like we have our own free choice to decide what we want to do. We are following a path that the Lord has set for us, right? So every night we go to sleep and we wake up, we follow the path that the Lord has set to accomplish His will, right? Now, I'm going to start in the book of Proverbs, chapter 20, verse 24, right? Because it's this clear cut, straight to the point, right? So it reads, man's goings are of the Lord, Yahweh. How can a man then understand his own way, right? So it's pretty straightforward where it says, man's goings are of the Lord, right? Because we understand that our goings, when we wake up in the morning and we decide to put on our shoes and head out, into the world, we're doing exactly what the Lord has, willed for our lives to fulfill. We go out, we do whatever the Lord commands us, and we just do exactly that, right? So, a lot of these Christians still under the impression that they can choose to put their shoes on and go outside. And, a lot of the time they will scoff at the idea that there's no such thing as free will. But, when you understand the scriptures, when you read the scriptures and you go into them, certain scriptures that you read sort of point to the truth that there is no such thing as free will, right? Now, I'm going to read in the book of Job, right? Because one of the things that I wanted to read in Job is chapter 23, right? And verse 11. That's where I wanted to go, right? So it says, my foot have held his steps. His way have I kept and not declined. So as we continue reading, verse 12, it says, neither have I gone back from the commandment of his lips. I have esteemed the words of his mouth more than my necessary food, right? So Job has kept the commandments to the best of his ability. When you read in Job, the first chapter, it says that Job was a perfect man, meaning that he kept the commandments to the best of his ability. He didn't go off, right? So continuing reading, verse 13, it says, but he is in one mind, and who can turn him? And what his soul desireth, even that he doeth. For he performeth the thing that is appointed for me, and many such things are with him, right? Now, Job here acknowledges the Most High's authority and his unchangeable purpose. Job understands that, the Lord doesn't change. If he says something is going to be a certain way, then that's the way it's going to be, right? So what Job is realizing is that whatever the Most High commands, it's going to be executed perfectly in the exact way that the Lord wants it to be executed, right? Now, other prophets also understood that as well, right? So when you look at the book of Jeremiah, as a matter of fact, we go to the book of Jeremiah, chapter 10, verse 23, I believe. Yes, verse 23, right? And it says, O Lord Yahweh, I know that the way of man is not in himself, right? So again, Jeremiah understood that, the man's goings are not of the Lord, or man's goings are of the Lord, Salakia, right? So I'll read it again, verse 23. O Lord, I know that the way of man is not in himself. It is not in man that walketh to direct his steps, because Jeremiah understood that the Lord guides your steps, right? So as we understand this truth, and the more you go into it, you understand that we have no control over what's going on with us, right? So we have to do the things that the Lord set out for us, right? So I'm going to go back to the book of Job, chapter 33, right? So this is where Elihu claims to speak for the Most High, right? But I'm going to read in verse 13, right? So this is Job chapter 33, verse 13. It says, Why dost thou strive against him? For he giveth not account of any of his matters. So in this verse, Elihu explains when the Most High speaks to man, in some ways, it's not immediately understood by men, right? So men, sometimes they don't understand, when, the Lord's trying to show them something, right? So what ends up happening, right, as we continue reading, verse 14 says, For the Most High speaketh once, yea, twice, yet man perceive it not. Again, that goes to what I was just saying about how sometimes the Lord, speaks or tries to show signs, and sometimes we just don't receive it. We don't see it, right? So as we continue reading, verse 15, it says, In a dream, in a vision of the night, when deep sleep falleth upon men, in slumberings upon the bed. Oftentimes, when we go to sleep at night, right, we have dreams, we have visions, and this is where the Lord seals the instruction, right? So as we continue reading, verse 16, it says, matter of fact, let me read verse 15 again. It says, In a dream, in a vision of the night, when deep sleep falleth upon men, and slumberings upon the bed, then he openeth the ears of men, and sealeth their instruction. So, long story short, the Lord, if you don't receive what the Lord is trying to show you, you're going to receive it in a vision or in a dream by night. So when you're sleeping, the instruction is going to be sealed in your head. So as soon as you wake up, you go and action the Lord's will and do it exactly how the Lord commanded you to do it. Right? It says, verse 17, that he may withdraw man from his purpose and hide pride from man. Right? Because a lot of the time, men are so caught up in pride, this intention to commit wickedness or commit evil. Right? So sometimes the Lord removes that pride so you can receive the instructions so that you don't destroy yourself, don't lead yourself to self-destruction, right? Or it could be that the Lord, wants to put you on a path that's going to lead you to your destruction, right? But again, it's all of the Lord's will is what's happening here. So when you feel that I'm going to wake up tomorrow and I'm going to go to let's say I'm going to go to another city and XYZ and do whatever, have a party, celebrate, whatever the case may be. It may be that the Lord has put something in your mind, sealed the instructions in your mind that you go to that city for his purpose. Maybe you bump into somebody you haven't seen in years and then something else transpires from that interaction. Or it could be that, the Lord's sending you off that way to set you on a course, to which may lead to your destruction. You know what I mean? Like, you never know what the Lord's got in store, because again, this is the Lord's, the Lord's movie, the Lord's will, right? There's a scripture that says, "Your thoughts are not my thoughts, neither your ways my ways." Something to that effect, roughly paraphrasing, right? So again, as we continue, right, when you look at it like that and you explain these scriptures, some of these scriptures that people will read will lead them to pull away or question, the the lack of free will, and there no being free will. Because again, you will have them questions that come in from people that would say, well, if there's no such thing as free will, how can I be held accountable for my actions, right? But again, it's all the will of the Lord, right? We're just, actors in the Lord's movie. We're playing the roles that the Lord set out for our lives, right? So you have no control over that. What you do is what the Lord has got you doing, right? The Lord will put you in the lot that the Lord's put you in, right? It's like an actor in a movie, right? You have Darth Vader, who had to be the villain, the antagonist, whatever the case may be. And then you had Luke Skywalker, which is the protagonist, right? So there's certain roles in a movie that you have to play. Otherwise, if you don't play the roles that you can't see like an extra on Star Wars playing the role of Darth Vader, because it wouldn't make sense. You know what I mean? So again, like, we're in the Lord's movie and we're doing exactly as the Lord's commanded us to do, right? Or willed us to do. Right. So like I mentioned, a lot of the time you have people that would question that and would sort of say, well, that's not fair. You know what I mean? This is I'm going to jump over to the book of Romans. This is Romans chapter 9, verse 19, right? And it says, thou wilt say then unto me, why doth he yet find fault? So why are you finding fault with me if I don't have the will to make my own choices, right? It says, thou wilt say then unto me, why does he yet find fault? For who hath resisted his will? Verse 20, nay, but O man, who art thou that repliest against the Most High? Like, who are you to question the Lord? Like, who are you to reply against the Lord, right? It says, shall the thing formed say to him that formed it, why hast thou made me thus? Right? So, let's take, for example, an art drawing, right? You have a picture that you've drawn and it's just a sketch. So you draw a stick figure, sitting on a sandy beach, with a umbrella drink, right? And then you think, oh, okay, well, I made it, just to get an idea of how to make the main picture. But I'm going to ball this sketch up and throw it in the garbage. I'm going to throw this away, right? So the picture is not going to speak to the creator and say, why did you draw me as a person sitting on a sandy beach, drinking a umbrella drink? Like, why did you create me? You know what I mean? It's not going to say anything. It's just going to exist the way that the artist drew it, right? So the same thing. It says, nay, I'll read that again, Romans 9, verse 20. It says, nay, but O man, who art thou that repliest against the Most High? Shall the thing formed say to him that formed it, why hast thou made me thus? Like, it's like, is the drawing going to reply to the creator and say, why'd you draw me like this? Because I did, right? Verse 21 says, have not the potter power over the clay of the same lump to make one vessel unto honor and another unto dishonor, right? So if I wanted to make a clay pot, I wanted to make a masterpiece clay pot, and I made that to honor, and then I made another clay pot just so I could throw it against the wall and smash it into pieces because I just want to do that, right? He's like, have I not got the power to do that? Of course, the Most High in this case, he's got the power to do that. If he wants to create a vessel, to honor, right, which would be the elect, and a vessel unto dishonor, like the Edomites, create them to be the antagonist, right? In his movie, they're the villain. The elect are the heroes, right? It says, verse 22, it says, what if the Most High, willing to show his wrath and to make his power known, endureth with much long suffering the vessel of wrath fitted to destruction, right? So again, it's because the Lord wants to. That's why. There's no need to explain. The Lord wanted to do it that way, and that's the way the Lord wants to do it. You want to draw a picture and throw it away, then That's just the that's the mindset of the artist, right? So if the Lord is the artist and he creates humans and people to follow his will, then that's just the way it is, right? Can't question that. Now, I'm gonna read one last scripture and I'm gonna close it out here. Because again, like I mentioned, we're playing a part in the Lord's movie. We all have our parts to play. You have the extras, you have your main characters, you have your villains, you have, X, Y, Z. This is part of the Lord's movie, and we're all playing a role in it, right? That's why there's no such thing as free will, right? So I'm going to read now in the book of Isaiah, chapter 46, and verse 9, right? So this is the book of Isaiah 46 and 9. Remember the former things of old, right? For I am the Most High, and there is none else. So there's no one else like the Lord, man. The Lord is one of one, It's the only one. It says, I am the Most High, and there is none like me. And that's true. There's none like the Most High. The Most High does what the Most High wants to do, right? So it's in that scripture. It's basically telling you to remember the former things of old. Like, look what the Lord has done in the earth. Look what the Lord has done for His elect. Look what He's done to the enemies of Israel. Look what He's done. Right? The Lord's done it exactly the way the Lord wanted to do it. Right? And you should remember that. Verse 10, it says, declaring the end from the beginning. Right? So the Lord knew what the ending was going to be from the beginning. So everything was already been mapped out. Right? It says, declaring the end from the beginning, and from ancient times the things that are not yet done, saying, my counsel shall stand, and I will do all my pleasure. The Lord's going to do what He wants to do. End of story. Right? So the idea of free will, it doesn't exist. Right? So we're all, at the mercy and the will of the Lord. So I pray that this lesson has been edifying through the spirit and power of Yahweh Bahashim Yahweh Shai. I'm going to leave it there. But before I go, I'm going to give all honor, glory, and praises unto Yahweh Bahashem, Yahweh Shai, Bahashem, Recha Kodash. Double honors to the elders and elder apostles and elder bishops of Great Millstone who rule well, who I've learned this truth from. I want to say peace and salutations to you hopeful elect that have been listening. And it's on to the next one, Lord willing. Shalom.